بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه الطيبين الطاهرين. We ask Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala to grant us all the sincere intentions. Today, inshaAllah ta'ala, we're going to speak about a very, very, very honorable person. A very honorable woman, the best woman that Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala created. But before we begin speaking about her, alayhi salam, let's get familiar with some of the places that are going to be mentioned. So towards the bottom left there you can see some water. That is the Dead Sea. That's where Sodom and Amorah, Sodom and Gomorrah, the people that Lut alayhi salam was sent to, that's where they resided. And then the punishment of Allah came upon them, and now where they were residing is under the sea. Then if you look to the left of that, just above that, you see Bayt al-Maqdis, Jerusalem, just under Judea there, Jerusalem. Just under Jerusalem is Baytul Lahm, Bethlehem. And you'll hear about that soon, insha'Allah. If you follow down from Jerusalem, if I can find my cursor there, Jerusalem, down there you find Hebron. Hebron is known as Al-Khalil. And in Khalil you can find the grave of our master Ibrahim alayhi salam. Likewise in these areas you find the grave of Sayyidina Yaqub alayhi salam, Sayyidina Ishaq alayhi salam, and some of the wives of Sayyidina Yaqub and the wife of Sayyidina Ishaq. Then if you look at Jerusalem and you go slightly to the east, you find Jericho, Ariha. This is where Sayyiduna Musa alayhi salam is buried. Then if you look to the north, you go up. If you go up, you find here the Sea of Galilee, or Buhayratu Tabariya, Lake Tiberias also. This is where Ya'juj and Ma'juj will come and drink from. Next to At-Tabariya, if you look at it, to the left you find Nazareth, An-Nasirah. And you'll hear about that insha'Allah ta'ala. This is where Prophet Isa alayhi salam spent most of his life, in An-Nasirah, Nazareth. And he will descend alayhi salam here, on the top right there, Damascus, Dimashq. Sidon is Saida, which is in Lebanon now. Jadra is very close to Saida. So these are the places that we're going to be speaking about, insha'Allah ta'ala. Allah ta'ala revealed in the Qur'an, إِنَّ اللَّهَ اصْطَفَى آدَمَ وَنُوحًا وَآلَ إِبْرَاهِيمَ وَآلَ عِمْرَانَ عَلَى الْعَالَمِينَ. Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala eternally chose Adam alayhi salam for prophethood. Likewise, Nuh alayhi salam. And then the family of Ibrahim. So you had Ibrahim alayhi salam, his two sons, Ismail and Ishaq. Then you had the rest of the prophets of Bani Israel from Ishaq. And from the other side, from Prophet Ismail alayhi salam, you had which prophet? Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. So the al of Ibrahim alayhi salam was chosen for prophethood. Likewise, the Al of Imran, the family of Imran, Allah favored them upon al-Alameen. So Adam, Noah, Abraham, Armem, over the rest of the creation. So here, when it comes to Al-Imran, the question is asked, fine, who are Al-Imran? So about this, the scholars have two sayings. So, Inna Allah astafa Adam. Allah eternally chose Adam to be a prophet. Wa Nuhan, wa ala Ibrahim, wa ala Imran. Some scholars said that Imran here, the family of Imran, that Imran refers to the father of Prophet Musa alayhi salam. The father of Prophet Musa alayhi salam. Some of the names that are on there. So you have at the bottom there, Musa alayhi salam, the son of Imran, the son of Yashur, son of Qahath, son of Lawa, son of Yaqub alayhi salam, son of Ishaq, and son of Ibrahim. So some said that Imran in this ayah, it refers to this Imran, Abu Musa alayhi salam. This is Imran. This is what some scholars said. But other scholars said this ayah, Al-Imran, they said Al-Imran means the family of Imran, meaning Imran, the father of Lady Maryam. There are about 29 people between Imran and Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam, approximately. These are down to the number of people, but I didn't have enough time to write their names down. But in the middle you see Prophet Dawood alayhi salam, who is the father of Sulaiman alayhi salam. So Lady Maryam is from this lineage. Maryam, the daughter of Imran or Armem, the son of Mathan, and some said Nathan, yani Nathan or Nathan. This is what is meant by the family of Imran being chosen, because from Imran, some scholars said he himself was a prophet, Imran. Then Lady Maryam was this pious lady, of course. And then after that, there was Prophet Isa alayhi salam. So this is what is meant by Al-Imran. Between the two Imrans themselves, so the father of Musa and the father of Lady Maryam, are about 1,800 years between the two. So the parents of Lady Maryam, her mother's name was, or rather the parents of Lady Maryam. Her mother, her name was Hannah, and some scholars said with a meme, Hamnah. She was the daughter of Faqud, and some said Faqud. Her father, some of the scholars said that he was a prophet of Allah, Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. And he, as well as his wife, Lady Hannah, they were both born in Nazareth. So if you look at Jerusalem, which is there, Nazareth is all the way up here. So they were both born in Nazareth, An-Nasirah. Imran alayhi salam married Lady Hannah, and they lived in Nazareth, which is about 85 miles away from Jerusalem, so north of Jerusalem. They had a daughter in their youth who they called Isha, and she grew to marry Prophet Zakaria alayhi salam. By relation, Lady Maryam, who in the story up to now she hasn't been born yet, she was, or he was, Maryam's mother's paternal uncle's son. And even before Lady Maryam was born, Prophet Zakaria alayhi salam had received revelation. He started calling people to the way of Allah Ta'ala, and he was a worshipper in Bayt al-Maqdis, in what is known as al-Masjid al-Aqsa. Lady Hannah, after many years, perhaps after 60 or 70 years after she gave birth to her daughter Isha, she longed for a child once more. And it had been a long time since she had given birth. Now her daughter is already married to a prophet of Allah. So one day she sat under the shade of a tree next to her husband, Imran. Some people say that the grave of Imran is in Salala, in Oman, next to the Yemen, and that it's a grave that is about 12 or 30 meters long. But this is far-fetched for that to be his grave, because that's very, very far away from Nazareth where he lived. Her father was either he was a prophet or he was among the scholars of Bani Israel. So they saw a bird. Look how Allah creates signs within His creation. They both observed a bird in a tree feeding its young. And this moved Lady Hannah to tears. She was longing for a child. So, as the pious do, as Allah revealed or guided in the Qur'an, Allah revealed, وَاسْتَعِينُوا بِالصَّبْرِ وَالصَّلَاةِ. Seek aid through patience and prayer. So they stood in prayer asking Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala to grant them a child. Then Imran saw in a dream, alayhi salam, that Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala will grant them what they are asking for. Allah revealed in the Qur'an, إِذْ قَالَتِ امْرَأَةُ عِمْرَانَ رَبِّ إِنِّي نَذَرْتُ لَكَ مَا فِي بَطْنِي مُحَرَّرًا فَتَقَبَّلْ مِنِّي إِنَّكَ أَنْتَ السَّمِيعُ الْعَلِيمُ. She vowed that whatever would be in her womb, she would make it a servant of what was the alternative or the equivalent of a masjid. And this was Bayt al-Maqdis. You'll see al-Masjid al-Aqsa, what it looked like in those days soon, inshallah. But she vowed, and when you vow something, it becomes an obligation. So she said, إِنِّي نَذَرْتُ لَكَ مَا فِي بَطْنِي مُحَرَّرًا. Ya Allah, I vow to you that I will make whatever is in my womb, I will make it muharrar. Muharrar was a person who was set aside from the matters of the world. And this person would be devoted to worshipping Allah. So a person would have a child, and they would say that my child is going to be muharrar. I'm not going to send the child to have a worldly education or to work or to get a job. No, the husband and the wife, they would say, we have had this child so it will worship Allah. That's it. And it will serve the scholars and the prophets. So this is what she vowed. And it was only valid to make that vow about a boy. So she said that I have vowed whatever is in my womb after she became pregnant, I vowed that it would serve in the masjid. So when the child would become of understanding, 4 or 5, 6 years of age, they would set it apart from the parents and send it to al-Masjid al-Aqsa. What would the child do? Sweep up inside the masjid, make sure people have water to drink, change the lanterns, make sure the correct amount of oil is in there. And then in their spare time, they would worship Allah. They would stand in their mihrab, in the place that was specific for them to worship Allah, and they would worship Allah there. When they become pubescent, then they would be given a choice. Either you continue on this path of devoting yourself to the worship of Allah, or you can leave the masjid and live a normal life. So they would have a choice. So almost every family would have one child that they would put into the masjid to worship Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala. And that took a lot of patience for a mother and a father to decide that we are setting this child aside to worship Allah. Just like in the nation of Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wassalam, just like in our Shaykh's village, Harar, they would set aside one child in the family to acquire the religious knowledge and to become a scholar. And then that from every family, so every house, on every street in that village, every house would have someone who would go to learn the Islamic knowledge and then return and teach their family. Their family would take care of their spending. Their family would help them get married and so on. So this takes a lot of bravery. And this wasn't for girls at the time, because when the women become pubescent, then they experience menstruation and so on and so on. So there would be gaps in their worship, in the prayer that they could pray. So Lady Hannah said, if Allah preserves me until I give birth, I vow that what I carry in my womb will serve Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa, and I will free it of all responsibilities, and that becomes an obligation. So our master Imran alayhi salam, he said to her, what are you doing? What if it is a girl? You didn't think about if it was a girl. What are we going to do? Is the vow even valid now? As far as they knew that this vow was not a valid one, because they could only do that for males. So Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala revealed, فَلَمَّا وَضَعَتْهَا قَالَتْ رَبِّ إِنِّي وَضَعْتُهَا أُنْثَى وَاللَّهُ أَعْلَمُ بِمَا وَضَعَتْ. She gave birth to a female. And in her astonishment, in her dua, when she spoke, addressing Allah Ta'ala, whether vocally or in her heart, she said, Ya Allah, I've birthed a girl. I've given birth to a female. Allah revealed, Wallahu a'lamu bima wada'at. Allah knows best. Allah knows the wisdoms behind the fact that she was given a female instead of a male, and what that entails. So Lady Hannah is not telling Allah Ta'ala something that Allah doesn't know. Allah knows everything. And Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala revealed, وَلَيْسَ الذَّكَرُ كَالْأُنْثَى. And the female, or rather the male, is not like the female in this situation. This is true. So she said, Lady Hannah, as Allah revealed, وَإِنِّي سَمَّيْتُهَا مَرْيَمَ وَإِنِّي أُعِيذُهَا بِكَ وَذُرِّيَّتَهَا مِنَ الشَّيْطَانِ الرَّجِيمِ. She said that I have named my child Maryam. Now this is the Arabized form of the name. In their language, this name is pronounced Maryam or Miriam with a slight elongation. This is how she would have been called in her time. And it means the devout female worshipper, Al-Abidah. So she named her daughter Lady Maryam. She gave her this name out of optimism, hoping that this is what she would be. And then she said, and she was a pious lady, Lady Hannah. She said, وَإِنِّي أُعِيذُهَا بِكَ. Ya Allah, I ask you to protect her وَذُرِّيَّتَهَا, and her offspring. And this is Prophet Isa alayhi salam, min ash-shaytan ar-rajim. Our Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam, he said, مَا مِن مَوْلُودٍ يُولَدْ إِلَّا الشَّيْطَانُ يَمَسُّهُ حِينَ يُولَدْ فَيَسْتَهِلُّ صَارِخًا مِنْ مَسِّ الشَّيْطَانِ إِيَّاهُ إِلَّا مَرْيَمَ وَابْنَهَا. That every person, this is except the prophets are also excluded. Every person, when they are born, then the devil manages to touch them. And because of that, a lot of people, a lot of children, you would see them crying. But Allah Ta'ala did not allow the devil to get to the prophets in this way, so they are excluded. And likewise, among them is Prophet Isa alayhi salam. Likewise, Lady Maryam, the only woman about whom this is explicitly mentioned and mentioned by the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam. So Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala revealed about this vow that they were questioning. Was it valid or was it not valid? Allah revealed, فَتَقَبَّلَهَا رَبُّهَا بِقَبُولٍ حَسَنٍ. It was revealed to Prophet Zakaria alayhi salam that Allah accepts that Lady Hannah, she reached the acceptance of Allah by doing what she did. This matter was accepted. They would not have known this in any way except through revelation. Zakaria alayhi salam, he told them about this. Allah revealed, وَأَنبَتَهَا نَبَاتًا حَسَنًا, that Lady Maryam, this child, she was given a good upbringing. She grew not like other children would grow. It said that in a day she would grow as much as perhaps a child would grow in a month, and so on. And she was given a healthy body without defects and so on. So then there came the issue of, okay, all of the scholars of Bani Israel, they knew that this is a special girl, a special child, because she was born when her mother was about 90 years of age. This was an extraordinary matter. And it was the daughter of the scholar of Imran. Some said he was a prophet. And Imran passed away before Lady Maryam was born. So she was born an orphan. So all of the scholars of Bani Israel, they were debating about who should take care of her. Remember, if we go back, Lady Maryam was born in Nazareth. So they came to Jerusalem all the way down. It said that Lady Hannah, she was so diligent that she wanted to fulfill her vow very quickly. So as soon as she had the child, she gave it a bit of time, she wrapped her child up and she took her child to Jerusalem. And she put it on, she put the child close to Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa to say to the scholars, here is this child, take care of it. In other narrations, perhaps she was about 4 or 5 years old when she became of understanding that Lady Hannah wanted to fulfill her vow. So then there was Prophet Zakaria alayhi salam, and there were the other scholars debating about who should take her, because they all wanted this blessed child, to train the child up to be a scholar, to take the child under their wing, to benefit from the blessings of this child. وَمَا كُنْتَ لَدَيْهِمْ إِذْ يُلْقُونَ أَقْلَامَهُمْ أَيُّهُمْ يَكْفُلُ مَرْيَمَ وَمَا كُنْتَ لَدَيْهِمْ إِذْ يَخْتَصِمُونَ. So they were debating with each other. The Prophet Zakaria alayhi salam said that I am most deserving of taking care of her because her sister is my wife, Lady Isha. So I am more worthy, I have the most right. And the other said that we should take care of her. So Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala gave a miracle to Prophet Zakaria alayhi salam. Whenever there was a child that would be brought to the temple, which is the equivalent of the masjid at that time, to be muharrar, they would take the pens with which they would write the Torah, the real Torah, and learn and teach and scribe. They would take these pens and they would draw, it's like they would draw lots. So they would go to the river Jordan to see who is going to get this child, to take the child under their wing. So 27 of the scholars of that time, including Prophet Zakaria alayhi salam, went to the river Jordan. And they took the blessed pens with them that wrote the Torah. So they threw the pens in, and all of the pens sunk except for the pen of Zakaria alayhi salam. So some of them, they didn't agree. They said we should do it again. So they picked up their pens again and they cast their pens into the river. And once more, all the other pens, they floated away. And the pen of Zakaria alayhi salam, this time it flowed against the tide. So the tide was going this way, and his pen, it flowed against the tide. And then for a third time, they cast the pens into the river, and the pen of Zakaria alayhi salam, it stood up. It stood up upright. And this was a clear sign that Zakaria alayhi salam would be the one who will raise her. Allah Ta'ala revealed, وَكَفَّلَهَا Zakaria. Zakaria alayhi salam took her in, Lady Maryam. Her mother passed away shortly after this. So she remained an orphan without a mother and without her father. And Zakaria alayhi salam, he took her in. He lived in Jerusalem. He had his own mihrab in al-Masjid al-Aqsa where he would pray. So he took her in, and she was raised by him and by her sister, Lady Isha, who was the wife of Zakaria alayhi salam. Some scholars, yes, you might hear, some scholars, they do say that Lady Isha, she was the khala of Maryam, meaning she was the sister of Hannah. She was Maryam's mother's sister. This is what some of the scholars said. But she was raised by a prophet of Allah Ta'ala. So this is the equivalent or a depiction of Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa in those times. If you come to modern times, here is Al-Masjid Al-Qibli. Al-Masjid Al-Qibli, and Masjid Qubbat Al-Sakhra is about here. The one with the yellow, the golden dome, it would be about here. Here is the Mount of Olives, the necropolis. It's a graveyard. So looking at it, this is where the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam would have stood when he led the prophets in prayer, and they would have stood behind him in all of this. All of this is Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa. So Zakaria alayhi salam raised her. And when she became about 4 or 5 years old, perhaps even 6, when she was of understanding, Prophet Zakaria alayhi salam, with his own blessed hands, built for her a chamber. And it is one that was high up. So it required a ladder to climb up. When she had finished her duties in the masjid, whether it was sweeping up, or reigniting the lanterns, cleaning, and so on, she would worship Allah Ta'ala in her chamber. No one would enter unto her except Zakaria alayhi salam with Yusuf al-Najjar. This was another Muharrar. It was her cousin, but it was another Muharrar, someone whose family had made him devout to worshipping Allah. So he grew up with her. He knew Maryam. He grew up with her in the masjid. Lady Maryam's chamber, it was, if you look here, to the bottom left. If you look at it as a plan view, it would have been about here. This is where nowadays they refer to this as Solomon's Stables. This is where, when the Christians, they took over this place, it moved hands quite a lot. So they used to have their horses here. Perhaps to ridicule the Muslims, they used to have their horses here. They made stables. Then after that, in about 1996, this was transformed into Al-Musalla Al-Marwani. So now underground you have the Musalla. You see where the prayers are prayed underground, because remember, a lot of this was built upon. So this, let's say, is the first or the second layer. It was built upon as time went on. Sulaiman alayhi salam and Dawood alayhi salam, their, let's say, headquarters for their kingdom, it was here. There's also a place here where Sulaiman alayhi salam used to sit. The Buraq wall is here. Obviously, we're going back and forth in history. But Lady Maryam's chamber would have been here. This is what is said to have been her chamber inside the compounds of the masjid, where she would spend most of her time worshipping Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. He would climb up, Zakaria alayhi salam, on a ladder, and he would reach that place. And with Yusuf al-Najjar, they would both go to see how Maryam is doing, if she needs anything. Lady Maryam, she had a very blessed upbringing. She was with Zakaria alayhi salam since the age of about 2 or 3 years of age, the age of about 2 or 3, and then she stayed with him. He nurtured her. He would have taught her how to recite at-Tawrah. He would have taught her dhikr. He would have taught her how to present herself. His wife, Lady Isha, was an honorable woman. She would have taught her, this young lady, how to carry herself as a woman, how to speak, how to be humble. She was a very, very, very intelligent young girl. And at this stage, she's only about 6 or 7 years of age. When she enters this area, she enters Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa, and before it, there has been nobody like her. She's a female who's entered as Muharrar. Revelation has come down about her that her mother's vow has been accepted. So she was someone who was very, very special. She grew and she became pubescent. She lived in Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa for about 5 or 6 years. She became pubescent. Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala revealed, كلما دخل عليها زكريا المحراب وجد عندها رزقا. Zakaria alayhi salam would go to her mihrab. He would climb up, he would go with Yusuf al-Najjar. So there was no khalwa. And remember, he raised her. This is like his child. He knows that she keeps herself to herself. The scholars of Bani Israel don't disturb her. She's a woman, she's pubescent now. They were talking about marrying her off also. But they would keep away from her because they didn't want any rumors to go around or any accusation, anything like that. They stayed away from her. They left her to herself. So he would go in and he would find fruits. She was a person who was detached from the world. She would eat simple foods. But he would find fruits there. He would find rizq there. Not just rizq, but at that time, there wasn't much import and export like there is nowadays. It might be winter here, it'll be summer somewhere else, and food will come, fruits will come. But it wasn't like that then. So he would find her to have the fruits of winter when it was summer, which is extraordinary. And likewise the opposite. In the winter, he would find her to have fruits of summer. So he was amazed. Imagine living in this time among Prophet Zakaria alayhi salam and Lady Maryam. And there are all these blessings, there are miracles happening. Zakaria alayhi salam, although he was a prophet, still one is amazed by miracles. One is amazed by extraordinary matters. So when this happened a number of times, he knows nobody enters and nobody goes out except for him and Yusuf al-Najjar together. So he finally asked her, he said, as Allah revealed, قَالَ يَا مَرْيَمُ أَنَّى لَكِ هَذَا. He said, Ya Maryam, where is this coming from? There's so many things he wants to say, but the prophets of Allah Ta'ala, they keep their speech concise. He said, أَنَّى لَكِ هَذَا. Where is this from? كَأَنَّهُ يَقُولُ يَا بِنْتِي. Oh my daughter, where is this coming from? So Lady Maryam, she responded, Allah Ta'ala enabled her to respond in an honorable way and in a concise way. Allah revealed, قالت هو من عند الله إن الله يرزق من يشاء بغير حساب. This sustenance would descend to her from Al-Jannah. She was never breastfed. And this food would be found there in her chamber, like we mentioned. This is what is thought to be her chamber, where she would rest, where she would worship Allah, where she would eat, where she would spend nights praying, crying. She would ask Allah for forgiveness. She would ask Allah for a higher rank. She would ask Allah for paradise. This is where she would spend her nights. So in this chamber, it is thought that that is where this food would come to her, just like that. So Zakaria alayhi salam, when he saw that, he thought to himself that if fruits can come to Maryam in other than their season, then my wife, his wife, Lady Isha, even though she was 98 years old at the time, and he was 99. He said, if Maryam can receive these fruits in other than their season, then I will exert my effort to make dua to Allah that I am granted a child via my wife who is past the point where a woman would usually have a child. So he entered his mihrab, he prayed and he prayed and he prayed and he prayed. And this would be going off into the story of Sayyidina Zakaria alayhi salam. The angels called out to him while he was in his mihrab that you will be granted a child called Yahya alayhi salam. So this was something that encouraged him to see Maryam and what she had received. So she was definitely among the pious ladies, definitely amongst the waliyat, because she had karamat. Women would come to her and they would say to her, Ya Maryam, make dua for us. Make dua that Allah forgives me. Make dua that Allah cures my child. They would grab onto her clothing sometimes while she was cleaning in the masjid. She was pious, she was blessed. They would say to her, make dua that Allah relieves me of such and such. Make dua that I would have a child. They knew her to be to be a child of extraordinary birth. Her father was a prophet or a pious person. She had a relative, her brother-in-law was Zakaria alayhi salam. She was blessed. So they would ask her for dua. And she was humble. She would make dua for them. She would worship Allah Ta'ala. She would sometimes spend her nights making dua for other people. She was a very, very special person. Allah Ta'ala يقول واذكر في الكتاب مريم إذ انتبذت من أهلها مكانا شرقيا. Lady Maryam, she left this area of Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa and she went towards the east. So the east being towards the Mount of Olives. Right? She went towards the east. مكانا شرقيا, as the ayah says. واذكر في الكتاب مريم إذ انتبذت من أهلها مكانا شرقيا فاتخذت من دونهم حجابا فأرسلنا. She put between herself and them a barrier. Some scholars said that she left Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa so that she could bathe. Because she, of course, she was a woman, so she would menstruate. It is said that she would go to the house of her sister, the house of Prophet Zakaria alayhi salam. And while she was in that state, she would stay there. And then she would bathe there and then return so that she can worship. This is what some of the scholars said. Other scholars said that Makanan Sharqiyan, an easterly place, means somewhere within the masjid but towards the east. And she put between herself and them a barrier. She concealed herself from the eyes of the people. Some scholars said that it was a place that she went to so that she would bathe. Allah revealed, فَأَرْسَلْنَا إِلَيْهَا رُوحَنَا فَتَمَثَّلَ لَهَا بَشَرًا سَوِيًّا. Allah sent the honorable soul, which was Jibril alayhi salam. You stop at this and you think, Subhanallah, Allah referred to Jibril alayhi salam as our, meaning of Allah, our most elite angel, the holy soul. Imagine Jibril alayhi salam when he knows that he is referred to in Revelation, in the Qur'an, as Ruhana, as the special soul that Allah created. That really does something. Allah sent, the order came, and Jibril alayhi salam, he went to Lady Maryam in that place in the form of a young, beardless human that had a bright face that was emanating nur. And the scholars say that he took the form of somebody who had curly hair and a perfect build. He was sent in the form of a human so that Lady Maryam would not, so that she wouldn't be startled. Had he gone his true form, then subhanallah. Remember the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam, once Jibril alayhi salam said to him, if you want to see me, then ask Allah, make dua, so that you can see me in my real form. Jibril used to come in the form of a man. Remember, angels, if they take the form of a human, it's always a man, without the private parts. So Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam made this dua. And so he was granted this. Jibril alayhi salam showed himself in his true form to Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. He opened up a wing, and this wing, it was so large. Jibril alayhi salam is so large that some of his wings, if they're opened up, they would cover everything that is between the east and the west. As a result, Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam fainted. He fainted. Our Shaykh radiallahu anhu said, had that been one of us, then we would have died. Our hearts would not have been able to bear seeing that. Lady Maryam, Jibril alayhi salam came to her in the form of a man, so that it wouldn't be an overwhelming experience, one that prevented her from hearing what Jibril would say. قالت إني أعوذ بالرحمن منك إن كنت تقيا. She saw a man, so she feared. So she called out the name of Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala. She said, I ask for the protection of Allah. Fear Allah. Who are you? Where have you come from? Why are you here with me alone? Who let you in? قال إنما أنا رسول ربك لأهب لك غلاما زكيا. He told her, I am a messenger of Allah. And he ensured her that you are safe and you have nothing to fear. He's telling her that he's not a human, he's not a man. Rather, he is a messenger of Allah. A messenger of the one that she seeks the protection of. And he said, لِأَهَبَ لَكِ, I have come to gift to you غُلَامًا, a child, زَكِيًّا, a child that is precious and pious, a special child. So once he told her that, and Allah made her heart firm, and she was at peace. That takes some iman. She was pious already. Allah created this strength within her heart. She understood what is being said to her, that you'll be granted a child. She said, as Allah revealed, قالت أَنَّى يَكُونُ لِي غُلَامٌ وَلَمْ يَمْسَسْنِي بَشَرٌ وَلَمْ أَكُ بَغِيًّا. She said, أَنَّى يَكُونُ لِي غُلَامٌ. This word أَنَّى, it means how on earth, like that. How on earth would I have a child? وَلَمْ يَمْسَسْنِي بَشَرٌ. No man has ever, forget being married, no man has ever touched me. I've been away in Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa worshipping Allah for about 14 years. It said she was less than 20 years old at the time. Some said she was perhaps at this time 14, 15, 16. She said, I've been worshipping Allah for about, these are her thoughts, 10 years. And no one enters unto me, no man enters unto me without there being another man, like Zakaria alayhi salam and my cousin Yusuf al-Najjar. So, أَنَّى يَكُونُ لِي غُلَامٌ. How? How on earth? وَلَمْ يَمْسَسْنِي بَشَرٌ. No humans ever touched me, forget being married. وَلَمْ أَكُ بَغِيًّا. And I'm not an unchaste woman. I'm not a sinister, lowly, wicked woman. I'm not a promiscuous woman. These things are far away from me. She knows that about herself. This is what any pure woman would say in her defense. a pure woman. Subhanallah. As for if someone came to a woman who was not like that and they said, "You're having a child," La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. In this day and age, they might ask, "I wonder whose it is." La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. So this pure, chaste woman, she said, "How would I have a child when I have not been with a man outside of wedlock, even in wedlock?" So then he confirmed for her. قال كذلك قال ربك هو علي هين. He said to her, this is how it will be. This is something that is easy for Allah. Everything is easy for Allah. Creating a pebble is easy for Allah. Creating a mountain is easy for Allah. Nothing is easier for Allah than anything else. Everything is easy. This is easy for Allah. He said, كذلك, this is how it is. She asked, how would I have a child? He said, كذلك, this is how it is. Just know. قال ربك هو علي هين. This is easy for Allah. وَلِنَجْعَلَهُ آيَةً لِلنَّاسِ وَرَحْمَةً مِنَّا وَكَانَ أَمْرًا مَقْضِيًّا. Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala has willed it, that the child would be without father. And this will be a sign for the people, a sign of the power of Allah. Whatever Allah has willed to be, which is written in the guarded tablet, Allāh al-Mahfūz, it will be. So here now she was no longer afraid of him. And so he drew closer to her, Jibril alayhi salam. And he blew the soul of Isa alayhi salam, by the order of Allah, into the top of her garment, into the top part of her garment that she was wearing. This soul, the souls are of two types, the honorable souls and the despicable souls. This soul was an honorable soul, the soul of Isa alayhi salam. When it entered, as some scholars said, into her, it mixed in with her body. It mixed in with her insides until it settled within her. And she then became with child. And this is special because Prophet Isa alayhi salam, he was not like most people. With most people, what do you have? You have a child that is formed from the fluid of the male and the fluid of the female. In this equation, there was no male. And likewise, it's a special soul because Isa alayhi salam was not, if you want to call it, conceived, or she didn't become with child from her own fluid. But this was a special creation. The soul was blown into her and she became with child. Allah Ta'ala revealed, وَإِذْ قَالَتِ الْمَلَائِكَةُ يَا مَرْيَمُ إِنَّ اللَّهَ اصْطَفَاكِ وَطَهَّرَكِ وَاصْطَفَاكِ عَلَى نِسَاءِ الْعَالَمِينَ. The angels, they called out to Maryam after this. They called out to her. Once she received this message, once she received that she is going to give birth to a child who's going to be given a book and who's going to be blessed and is going to perform miracles, then the angels would call out to her. They said to her that Allah eternally chose you by first accepting the vow of your mother. Inna Allah astafak, Allah eternally chose you. Wa tahharaki, Allah purified you, raised your rank, and cleared you from all of the disliked traits. Wastafaki, and chose eternally you to be the best of women and the mother of one of the messengers of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. The angel said to her, Ya Maryam qunuti li rabbiki wasjudi warka'i ma'ar raki'in. They said to her, O Maryam, remain steadfast. Continue obeying Allah Ta'ala. Continue praying. Continue performing a sajda. Continue performing a ruku'. Continue worshipping Allah. And she would worship Allah a lot. In some narrations it's mentioned that she would stand for prayer so much that on some occasions she would find it difficult to walk because of how much she would worship Allah. This is a role model for the women, the best woman that ever lived. Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam said, Sayyidatu nisa'il alameen Maryam. The best woman, better than Lady Khadija, better than Lady Aisha, better than Lady Fatima, Maryam. That's why the scholars, they permitted for it to be said about her, alayhi salam. Even though this is usually said, alayhi salam, about prophets. But because she was the best woman, and she was a pious lady, the scholars permitted for it to be said, alayhi salam, about her. So she went back to Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa, and the signs of pregnancy became apparent upon her. Who noticed that? The one who was raised with her in the masjid, the one who would change lanterns with her, clean the masjid with her, among others, of course, Yusuf and Najjar. They would both exert themselves in worshipping Allah, and he was a pious person. Each time that he would see Maryam walking a certain way, or seeming to be very fatigued, or signs of pregnancy, when he saw her, even her shape changing, whenever it would cross his mind, the possibility of her being pregnant, he would remember that she's not married. I know Maryam, we all know Maryam, she's not married. And then he would repel the thought. And as for the thought of doing an obscene act, it wouldn't even cross his mind, because he knew Maryam. She was about 15 here. He knew that she rarely leaves the chamber. It's only myself and Zakaria alayhi salam who climb up to her to give her food if she needs. So one day he said to her, Maryam, it really got to him. He didn't accuse her at all. He didn't think ill of her. He said, Maryam, I have something I want to say. There's something that's troubling me. Something I need to put to rest. I wanted to stay quiet about it, but it's overcome me. And I believe it's better for my heart that I speak about it. So she said to him, قُلْ قَوْلًا جَمِيلًا, say, don't be shy. So he said to her, Ya Maryam, هل ينبت زرع بغير بذر? Do crops grow without seeds? وهل تنبت شجرة من غير غيث? Does a tree grow without being watered, without rain? ويا مريم هل يكون ولد من غير ذكر? Is it possible that there would be a child without a man? So Lady Maryam replied, Naam, yes. It's possible that the harvest would grow without a seed. It's possible that a tree would grow without being watered. And it's possible that a child would be born without there being a father. She said, أَلَا تَعْلَمُ أَنَّ اللَّهَ أَنْبَتَ الزَّرْعَ يَوْمَ خَلَقَهُ مِنْ غَيْرِ بِذْرٍ? Don't you know that Allah, when Allah created the skies and the earth, and then put mountains on the earth, and fields and rivers, don't you know that Allah created the wheat and the barley and all these things, the crops, without seeds? Allah made them exist. They just came into existence. وهذا البذر إنما حصل من الزرع الذي أنبته من غير بذر. And she said it will happen without a seed. ألم تعلم أن الله تعالى أنبت الشجرة من غير غيث وبالقدرة جعل الغيث حياة الشجرة بعدما خلق كل واحد منهما على حدة. Don't you know that Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala created trees without rain by His great power? And then Allah made it rain. This is after the trees had been produced. أو تقول إن الله تعالى لا يقدر على أن ينبت الشجرة حتى استعان بالماء. Or do you say, she's asking him rhetorically, she knows that he doesn't believe this. Or do you say that it is not possible that Allah would bring about a tree without water? You know. She said, ألم تعلم أن الله خلق آدم وامرأته من غير ذكر ولا أنثى. Don't you know that Allah created Adam and his wife, Lady Hawa. Adam without mother and father, and Lady Hawa also without mother and father. She was created from Adam alayhi salam. So when he heard these things, and remember, when the pious people say something, their speech is different. Two people could say the same thing, but because this man or this woman is a blessed man or woman, because Allah creates blessings within their heart, they hit the other heart differently. So when he heard that, he was content. And he didn't need to hear more. He didn't ask about how, did Jibril come to you? Where were you? What did he? Nothing like that. He just took it. So then he even started to help her. He started to take some of her turns in extinguishing the lanterns, igniting the lanterns, cleaning certain parts, and so on. She visited her sister, Lady Isha, and she at the same time, Lady Isha, became with child. This was a miracle. We have said that Zakaria alayhi salam, he was given the good news of a child. And it is mentioned that Lady Maryam would say to her sister, when she visited her on one occasion, do you see, is it apparent that I am with child? Likewise, her sister would say to her, is it apparent that I am with child? It is mentioned that Prophet Yahya alayhi salam, while in the womb of his mother, he would salute in a certain way Sayyidina Isa alayhi salam. Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala revealed, فَحَمَلَتْهُ فَانْتَبَذَتْ بِهِ مَكَانًا قَصِيًّا. When she was less than 20 years of age and she became heavily pregnant, she disappeared out of the sight of the people. She walked and she walked and she walked. She left Jerusalem, she left Al-Aqsa, and she traveled to the south. She left Jerusalem and she traveled to the south, about there, to Beit Lahm, Bethlehem. Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala revealed, فأجاءها المخاض إلى جذع النخلة قالت يا ليتني مت قبل هذا وكنت نسيا منسيا. The pains of labor, they took Lady Maryam to a palm tree out in the open, and there was nobody else there to help her. It took her out in the open, and can you imagine now, someone claims about one of your family members, one of a person claims about someone's daughter that she did something obscene, that would usually tarnish a person's reputation, even if it's a lie, that they committed an obscene act with such and such person and now they've had an illegitimate child. So that person would imagine, I wonder what these people are going to say about me. I wonder how they're going to treat me. I wonder what are they going to ask me. Are they going to be violent, and so on and so on. Lady Maryam, she obviously knew she was innocent, but she was with child. How would she explain any of this to anybody? So for that reason, Allah revealed that she said, how I wish that I had been forgotten before, if I was a nobody. If I wasn't known, she was very known among the people. How I wish that I was just someone who was forgotten. And I wish that I had died before this hardship, because this is very difficult. Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala revealed that Lady Maryam gave birth. When she gave birth, many extraordinary things happened. She was there by herself. After she gave birth, she became sad because she was by herself. Nobody to console her, nobody to comfort her. And Allah revealed, فَنَادَاهَا مِن تَحْتِهَا أَلَّا تَحْزَنِي قَدْ جَعَلَ رَبُّكِ تَحْتَكِ سَرِيًّا. Jibril alayhi salam, one of the best companions, Jibril alayhi salam, who would have gone to Musa, to Isa, to Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. He went to Maryam and he said to her, he appeared in a low place and he said to her, don't be worried, لا تحزني. Don't be sad about your loneliness or your shortage of food and drink, and don't worry about what the people will say. Allah has provided for you a small river, and in an extraordinary way, water started to come out somewhere close to her. There had been no water there. It said he hit the ground, alayhi salam, and water started to come out. And he said to her, وَهُزِّي إِلَيْكِ بِجِذْعِ النَّخْلَةِ تُسَاقِطُ عَلَيْكِ رُطَبًا جَنِيًّا. He ordered her to shake the trunk of that tree, and ripe dates would fall down. And they did. فَكُلِي وَاشْرَبِي وَقَرِّي عَيْنًا. He said, drink from the water and eat from the dates. وَقَرِّي عَيْنًا. Eat as much as you need, drink as much as you need, and don't be saddened by what has happened. And then he instructed her. He said, as Allah revealed, فَإِمَّا تَرَيِنَّ مِنَ الْبَشَرِ أَحَدًا. If you see any person, don't worry, Maryam. If you see anybody, and you fear, don't you, that they're going to ask you X, Y, and Z. Anybody that you see, hear it from me, hear it from Jibril alayhi salam. فَإِمَّا تَرَيِنَّ. If you definitely see مِنَ الْبَشَرِ أَحَدًا, anyone among the bashar, فَقُولِي إِنِّي نَذَرْتُ لِلرَّحْمَنِ صَوْمًا فَلَنْ أُكَلِّمَ الْيَوْمَ إِنْسِيًّا. Say that I am fasting. In those days, it was permissible to fast, meaning not to say anything. To fast by not speaking. So he said, you gesture to that person that you're fasting and that you will not speak to anybody. You will not speak to any human. فَلَنْ أُكَلِّمَ الْيَوْمَ إِنْسِيًّا. So then she walked back. I've forgotten now, I think it is about 7 or 8 kilometers from Beit Lahm to Jerusalem. 7 or 8 kilometers. She walked back now with child, and she's given birth. So she must have walked back slowly. Walked back to Jerusalem, to Beit al-Maqdis. Allah revealed, فَأَتَتْ بِهِ قَوْمَهَا تَحْمِلُهُ. She brought her child, carrying her child to her people. And whatever she had expected happened. They said, as Allah revealed, قالوا يا مريم لقد جئت شيئا فريا. They said, "Oh Maryam, what is this?" All sorts of things. Can you imagine the abuse they hurled at her? Men, grown men shouting at her, women disapproving with their eyes, with their tongues. They said to her, لَقَدْ جِئْتِ شَيْئًا فَرِيًّا. This is strange, this is not expected, especially of you. يَا أُخْتَ هَارُونَ مَا كَانَ أَبُوكِ امْرَأَ سَوْءٍ وَمَا كَانَتْ أُمُّكِ بَغِيًّا. They said to her, "Oh, sister of Harun." Harun was a pious person in those times. So if they wanted to attribute someone to piety, they'd say, "Oh, you're Harun's brother. You're like Harun." So they said to her, "Ya ukhta Harun, oh pious lady, your father was not a man of evil and your mother was not a prostitute." That's what they said to her. "Ma kanat ummuki baghiya." Look what they're insinuating about her. And despite all that, she remained silent. Allah revealed, فَأَشَارَتْ إِلَيْهِ. She pointed at the child. They said, as Allah revealed, قَالُوا كَيْفَ نُكَلِّمُ مَنْ كَانَ فِي الْمَهْدِ صَبِيًّا. How are we supposed to speak to this child who is cradled in your arms? At this time, some of the scholars said, Prophet Isa alayhi salam, this child was about 40 days old. Some said other things. But he was a newborn still. They said, كَيْفَ نُكَلِّمُ مَنْ كَانَ فِي الْمَهْدِ صَبِيًّا. How should we speak to this child that is still in your arms? Like to say, are you belittling us? So then here this extraordinary matter occurred that we all know, that Allah enabled as a defense for his mother and to show that he is an extraordinary human being. Prophet Isa alayhi salam spoke. Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala revealed, قال إني عبد الله آتاني الكتاب وجعلني نبيا. Prophet Isa alayhi salam, when he spoke, all of the people fell silent. Can you imagine the markets of people, from the markets and from the street, they're all gathered, surrounded, besieging her, if you will. All of them fell silent. He said, "I am the slave of Allah. Inni Abdullah. Atani al-kitab." Allah will reveal a book to me. And that happened when he was 30 years old. Al-Injil, the original gospel. وَجَعَلَنِي نَبِيًّا. And Allah will grant me prophethood. وَجَعَلَنِي مُبَارَكًا أَيْنَمَا كُنْتُ. And Allah will create blessings in me wherever I go. وَأَوْصَانِي. And will order me to order you بِالصَّلَاةِ وَالزَّكَاةِ مَا دُمْتُ حَيًّا. For as long as I live. وَبَرًّا بِوَالِدَتِي. Like to say, leave my mother alone. I will be good to my mother. Don't accuse my mother of this and that. How is it that you would accuse such a person of such a thing without any proof? Allah will make me barram biwalidati. Bar is someone who treats their parent well. وَبَرًّا بِوَالِدَتِي وَلَمْ يَجْعَلْنِي جَبَّارًا شَقِيًّا. I will not be a person who torments my mother or harms my mother or am arrogant to my mother. So back off my mother. وَالسَّلَامُ عَلَيَّ يَوْمَ وُلِدْتُ. Peace was upon me the day that I was born. وَيَوْمَ أَمُوتُ. And the day that I die. وَيَوْمَ أُبْعَثُ حَيًّا. And on the day that I am resurrected. Lady Maryam was then given free passage to return to Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa, to return to her chamber where she raised Isa alayhi salam, this special woman raising this special child. She raised him for about 3 years until the self-professed king of the Jews, the so-called King Herod, decided to ransack and massacre the city. He had heard that his dominion, his kingdom was going to be contended by a young boy, so he decided to kill all the children. Yusuf al-Najjar and Lady Maryam and Isa alayhi salam, the child, left for Egypt, as Allah revealed in the Qur'an that they were taken ila Rabwah. Some of the scholars said this was Egypt. They stayed there for about 12 years. Lady Maryam stayed there. And there are many stories about some of the extraordinary matters that occurred at the hands of her son. Then they went to, after an angel came to Yusuf al-Najjar, the angel told him that King Herod is dead. So they went from Egypt, which is in the south, and they went all the way past Jerusalem up to Nazareth. Isa alayhi salam then stayed in Nazareth for about 25 years. Many extraordinary matters were seen from him, and his mother was with him. His mother was alive. She was alive when he received prophethood at the age of 30. For 3 years, he taught Al-Injil. In 3 years, he raised the dead. At least 4 people from the dead. He asked Allah to bring down Al-Ma'idah, food from paradise. And it came down. The people saw it coming down from the sky. Lady Maryam, she was with her son as he was teaching people about Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. She saw his miracles. Then he was raised. When Isa alayhi salam was raised, because he did not die, Allah revealed, مَا قَتَلُوهُ, they didn't kill him. وَمَا صَلَبُوهُ, they did not crucify him. But it was made to look like that. Isa alayhi salam was raised at the age of 33. And Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam said that he would return. Lady Maryam, she did not live for long after Prophet Isa alayhi salam was raised. Remember, if she gave birth to him when she was around 14, and he remained on the earth for 33 years, then she was not very old when she passed away. It is not confirmed where she is buried. The Christians, they say that she is buried in a particular place in the occupied Palestine. They have a church there. The Christians, wherever they feel that something significant happened, they put a cross on it and they build a church there. But there's a specific place that they say that she is buried. The Muslims, we don't confirm anything. Historically, we don't know where she was buried. In the story of Lady Maryam, who you could say died young, is a great lesson for both men and women, but especially for women. That this was an honorable lady who was devout. She devoted herself to worshipping Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. It's a story about how to raise a child. Whatever you get a child accustomed to, the child will take it. And in the end, it is Allah who guides. Can you imagine as a mother seeing what Lady Maryam must have felt, watching her son bring people back to life from the dead? La ilaha illallah. Bringing back the son of Nuh alayhi salam, Sam, Shem, the son of Nuh. Can you imagine the things that she saw and advised him? What a mother to raise a messenger of Allah. I mean, she has her own story. She has her own story. And then there is Isa alayhi salam who will return. Insha'Allah, if we are alive when he returns, we will ask him about his mother. We will ask him about how he was raised. We will ask him about how, as a single parent, Isa alayhi salam never had a father. but Allah made it be that he would be raised in the proper way. وَنَسْأَلُ اللَّهَ السَّلَامَ. We ask Allah to grant us death upon Islam, and to learn from the lessons, that and the advices that are given in lessons such as this. We ask Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala to grant us the good manners, to grant our children at-tawfiq. We ask Allah to forgive us and to protect us, and to grant us to be under the banner of Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam on the Day of Judgment. Let's say La ilaha illallah and as-salah ala nabi. La ilaha illallah, la ilaha illallah, la ilaha illallah. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallim. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم.